man who decided to break the mold on his first visit to the World Economic Forum in Davos. Now, in a panel on inequality on the final day of the forum, Rutger Bregman, a Dutch historian and the author of a book entitled Utopia for Realists, made an impassioned statement that absolutely went viral and prompted countless discussions.
This is my first time at Davos, and I find it quite a bewildering experience, to be honest. I mean, 1,500 private jets have flown in here to hear Sir David Attenborough speak about, how we're wrecking the planet. And I hear people talk in the language of participation and justice and equality and transparency. But then, almost no one raises the real issue of tax avoidance, right? And of the rich just not paying their fair share. It feels like I'm at a firefighters conference and no one's allowed to speak about water. This is not rocket science. We can talk for a very long time about all these stupid philanthropy schemes. We can invite Bono once more, but come on, we gotta be talking about taxes. Yeah, exactly. That's it, taxes, taxes, taxes. All the rest is in my opinion.
The bleep and all. Rutger Bregman joins me now from Amsterdam via Skype. But first, though, we want to hear from you. Get on that phone, tablet, or computer. Go to cnn.com/join. Our question to you: do the rich need to pay more tax? I want you to cast your vote again at cnn.com/join, and we will discuss the results in a moment. Thanks so much for joining us today. You know what? I'm going to quote you back to you. You said 10 years ago it would have been unimaginable for a random Dutch historian to go viral on something like this. Why do you think it hit a nerve?
Well, the times are changing. I'm really part of a much broader movement of people who are starting to realize that we need to do something, about the huge tax avoidance that is going on and the rich that are just not paying their fair share. That's what's happening.
In terms of what you're suggesting, though, there are some things that we've heard the very parameters of an idea. So a universal basic income, fewer hours in a work week, a social safety net. So people talk about those things on the margins. Do you believe higher tax rates would make wholesale change possible without bankrupting governments?
Oh, it's just about going back to the past. So if you look at the 1950s, during the presidency of, Eisenhower, the Republican, the top marginal tax rate for billionaires was 91%. The estate tax was more than 70%. And this was also the period in American history with the most innovation, the highest economic growth, et cetera, et cetera. So again, as I said during my speech as well, it's not rocket science. We can just go back to old solutions that worked in the past.
In terms of those solutions, though, I swear I could see people squirming in their chairs. And you know that in many countries, even if you are middle income, even if you're low to middle income, many people squirm at the thought of taxes. Why?
Yeah, but I'm not talking about low and middle incomes, right? I actually think that taxes for many of those people should go down, and the rich should start paying their fair
but when
share,
you say that,
right?
everyone says that won't work because the rich have options. They will move out of certain countries. They will shelter their funds.
Yeah.
Are you talking more about naming and shaming?
That is absolute nonsense. The United States is the most powerful country in the world. I'm from Holland, which is a major tax paradise. Well, I can assure you, we are not the most powerful country in the world, right? So if the US would say to Holland, stop being a tax paradise, or we'll invade you or something, I can assure you, it will be over the next day, probably. So this is not a question of whether this is possible, yes or no. It's really a matter of political will. And what you now see is that people are coming together, a movement is building, and these ideas are moving into the mainstream. So I'm actually quite hopeful that this is just a matter of time.
Okay, now this will come as no surprise to you. The results are in, pretty overwhelming. The vast majority agree with you that the rich need to pay more tax.
Well, there you go.
Go ahead. The old age adage, though, is here that, look, the rich, A, will take their money elsewhere, and B, that it does not motivate the best of capitalism if you're taxing the rich to that extent.
Mm-hmm. Well, what we have now, if you go to Davos, you meet many billionaires who talk in the language of entrepreneurship and of hard work. But if you really look at their business models, it's not about hard work. It's about exploiting their workers. It's about not paying them a living wage. It's about rent seeking. It's about coming up with destructive financial products. It's about, letting people click on ads as much as possible. That's not wealth creation. The real wealth creation is going on in the lower classes and the middle classes. And yes, they need to pay fewer taxes. but the rich need to start paying their share.
Now, I have to ask
I mean, it's not left wing or right wing. It's just common sense.
I have to ask you before we go. You went viral. We had this viral moment. It has a lot of people talking, which is good. Do you think in 10 years, the beginning of the interview, I talked to, you said 10 years. In a decade, do you think anything will change on this?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, these ideas always start on the fringes. People are first dismissed as crazy and ridiculous and irrelevant and naive, but now there really is a new generation that starts to see that this can't go on like this. We need to do something about inequality that is spiraling out of control. And there's also a new generation of politicians, like someone as Congresswoman Cortez in the U.S., who is working together with top scientists, top economics to come up with sensible proposals to do something about this. So as I said, I'm actually quite hopeful for the future.
Yeah, it is definitely a conversation here in U.S. politics now. I want to thank you for being with us on a Friday because, of course, you advocate a 4-day work week, and I can assume Friday is going to be your favorite day to take off. But I appreciate it, and we
Well,
hope
this
to
isn't work. This is just fun.
Okay, take care, and
Thanks
we
for
hope to
having me.
hear more from you. Appreciate it.